Hello and welcome to episode 57 of my informative playthrough of Pathfinder Kingmaker, and this is going to be a capital-based video, and because I'm going to start talking through some of the NPCs we haven't spoken to yet. So, of course, we haven't spoken to Ekon, and we haven't spoken to Kanerah and Kalikke, who we've just come back from rescuing, or helping, via a rather roundabout route. And we haven't spoken to any of the other NPCs, such as the merchants in the city. But I'm going to do Kanerah and Kalikke first, before I move on to Ekon, because there's a quest related to this that I want to start ticking as soon as possible. We've already wasted quite a lot of time on it by holding off going to complete their quest until now. So I'm going to go ahead and head in here, and we'll speak to them. So, first of all, we can see the sweet teeth here, Tevi, Nio, and Elki, and we can also, as is normal, pinch everything they've got. And being sweet teeth, they quite like sweet things, so we've got stashes of chocolate and sweet syrup. But we'll be taking all of that, thank you. A little bit of baronial tax, no big deal. So, this video is gonna be the whole video here, because not only is there Kanerah and Kalikke, but we can also talk to the sweet teeth here, and we'll do that first to see what they've got to say. So, yes, quite surprised to see us come in, and yes, I thought gentlefolk didn't hang around their subject's home. What about bursting into them and stealing all your sweet syrup? Yeah. So, yes. And yeah, they're almost, or I say almost. I think they're the sweet teeth. Like, sometimes I find comedy in these sort of settings doesn't quite work, but you know, whoever wrote these, I think, did a pretty good job of writing some not over the top comedy. Yeah, that yeah, is relatively funny. At least I find it so. Even if other people don't. And yes. So, first of all, how did you find out about the Disc of the Eclipse? Because they were the one who told Kalikke about it, or they told Kanerah and she told Kalikke. Basically, I can't remember which one learned about it first, but yeah. And so, oh, that's some story. We were walking at night in complete darkness through an empty, moonlit barren, and we got lost and stumbled into a scary thicket. But then we saw light ahead, a witch's house. As soon as we went inside, she said we were dummies who couldn't watch our tongues and threw us out. And the Disc of the Eclipse, we found out about that by accident. A peddler talked to us on the road and just gave us an ancient chronicle where we read about it. So yeah, like I said, that one makes me laugh because it's a left field switch. Yeah, and yeah, we accidentally used the chronicle for kindling, but we remembered everything we read real well. And so, tell us about yourself, sweet teeth. Yeah, so, how do you know Kalikke? Our elder? She's the best. So, at first they didn't know she was a tiefling, so this is quite relevant here. And, yeah, so they were preparing sweets in Quadira. There were street-side sweet sellers. And, yes. And with them an emberkin. So this is a type of Asimar. And she wanted to buy sweets. And that was Kalikke. She was pretending to be an Asimar using an illusion. And, yeah. So, yes, she found us later and bought our sweets and started to keep an eye on us. She got us the sweet teeth ever since. We'd be lost without her. And, tell us why you left Quadira. So, and this again, this is instrumental, critical to Kalikke and Quadira's story, which is a bit more involved. I guess there's a bit more exposition than with some of the other companions. But yes, the cult of the Dawnflower. So Quadira is obsessed with worshipping Sharon and the cult of the Dawnflower are far more focused on, as they describe it, the scimitar part rather than the healing light and the mercy part. So they have strong prejudice against tieflings. I think I've talked about this before, but tieflings with their fiendish heritage don't attract, a lot of enthusiasm among people, and especially in a region like Quadira with its obsession with Sarenrae, Ray, they are viewed with strong suspicion. And yes, and so they started a revolutionary cell. Maybe that's what they're actually saying. We gathered secretly with the other tieflings and genie offspring to discuss how life is not so good for us in Quadira and how we could change everything. Doesn't explain how they were planning on changing it, but yes, they were branded as conspirators. And so Kalikke saved them from a raid from the cult of the Dawnflower, and yes, so she saved them, and they left. Anyway, who are you to each other? And yes. You like to tell tall stories. And yeah. How is life here for you? It's cold and it's green. Cool, that's very nice for you. And yeah. But even that has its positives. So, and this reference to what life is like in Quadira. Everyone is either servile or arrogant. Everyone is looking for someone to bow down to or look down upon. Here, everyone is their own master. Even the bandits on the high road. Of course, they'll take your boots off you, but with respect, from one free person to another. And that's it for the Sweet Teeth for now. Thanks for stopping by. So they've come with Kalikke, basically, and she took a shine to them when she was disguised as an Aasimar, and we will learn a lot more about that as we chat here. So we're going to go through both Kanerah and Kalikke's dialogue. We can do them one after the other. We can also have a little look at this table, and this has got a poem here written by Kalikke, and I believe this has a role to play if you are romancing one or both of them. But yeah, we're not doing that here, so we'll just leave that there. And of course, because we can sort of interrogate each of them using this sort of, interview style dialogue boxes, we can get like two sides of the story, if that makes sense. So first of all, we can hear what Kanerah has to say, and of course, she kind of sticks more to her lawful evil alignment, and then we can hear what Kalikke has to say, who sticks far more to her chaotic good alignment. So immediately she references the Sweet Teeth. They used to follow us around in Quadira. They know both of us very well. Couldn't we just send them somewhere? No, by the way, hello. So that's the quest. We get a quest to send the Sweet Teeth off on some whimsical and amusing errands. But yeah, before we do that, let's ask Kanerah a little bit about herself. So let's ask you a few questions about your past. That's reasonable. Who wouldn't want to know about their subjects and companions? So, this is the main part. Tell us the story of you and your sister from the beginning. And yes, it's a long story, but she reiterates what the Sweet Teeth say. They were born in Quadira, not a very good place to be a tiefling. And yes, but how would you say, like discrimination? That's what I was looking for. So they weren't killed, but you forget about social status. It's impossible to rise from rags in that country where they value connections and reputation more than gold. Since birth, they looked on us as evil creatures, vicious and unpredictable. And yes, so yes, where are we? So this is Kanerah's sort of, I guess, lawful evil. If superstitions stand in the way of achieving a goal, there's no reason to shed a tear. Better to use those same superstitions to your own end. And this is crucial to the first part of their story because of the Qadirans' idolization of Aasimars, i.e. those with divine blood of some sort. Kanerah put a little bit of work into disguising herself as and Aasimar, and using her kineticists' fire mastery to indicate that she had the blessing of Sarenrae herself, or at least the goodwill. Because if we remember from Tristian, the spells he gets extra are fire related. Sarenrae likes hot things. Dawnflower, I guess, yeah. So this is how she established that disguise. She made a contract with the devil, and of course they are their tiefling heritage is devil heritage. Ours is div heritage, spiked spawn. Yeah. So the devil wove an illusion to disguise her and her sister as Aasimar. Yes. But what choice did I have? To wash bowls at a caravanserai until the end of my days? This would have just been a waste of the priceless gem that I am. I'd be burdened with caring for Kalikke, that naive walking virtue. He was totally unfit for a hard life. Yes, so we get alignment-related choices. Lawful good being no contract with devils, thank you. And of course lawful evil being, making the most of the contract. And we're going to pick this chaotic good one. You tried to fix an injustice that came upon you as a curse from the cradle that can be understood and forgiven. I don't particularly like the wording of this, but yeah, they tried to overcome heritage-related prejudice through being born in a region that doesn't particularly like tieflings at all. But yeah, that's a little bit of sarcasm there. Anyway, it's all in the past now. The contract was annulled by my death. Now I'm free to live as I wish. And we'll get Kalikke's side of the story here, because there's a bit more to this than that. So what was the agreement you made with this devil? And yes, in short detail, she was disguised via a powerful illusion as an Emberkin, these descendants of Peri. And I think this is quite a little bit funny, because here, if we look here, Peri's hate the evil fiends known as divs, who constantly seek to ruin their good work of mortals. And of course, that is that is Alice's tiefling heritage there. So a little bit of a link there. Of course, we don't let that heritage get in the way of being nice. So yeah. And so there were caveats or stipulations written into this contract. So she had to do tasks, and for somehow, yeah, I guess it's a bit of finesse. She traded tasks for this disguise, but it doesn't involve selling her soul. Yes. So what were these assignments? You'd be amazed. They included fighting evil. The forefather comes from a line of apostate devils, or demimavigas. They live for only one goal: to turn people's souls away from serving any god but Asmodeus. This is the archdevil, king of hell. And yes, so so if I flick onto the next one, it's all about how by being a fanatic of Sarenrae, or pretending to be one, that would then turn people away from worship of Sarenrae because of that sort of hardline approach. So that was the the cunning ploy, as devils are known for. So in fact, Kanerah, as disguised as an Emberkin, was serving the cult of the Dawnflower, the warrior, or those that revere the more militant side of Sarenrae. So yes, doing Inquisition style stuff, I think, is how I would describe that. And of course, that would sow doubt, and those who entertain such doubt would soon hear a knock on their door from a messenger of hell, offering a simple solution: protection and prosperity in return for their souls. Well, cunning if convoluted plan, but I guess devils are known for them. So what was it like living disguised as Aasimars? So, everybody loved them because, of course, Aasimars are as revered in Quadira as tieflings are ostracized. And yes, so she gained a powerful patron within the cult of the Dawnflower, who was very pleased to have a sort of Aasimar companion. And yes, I quickly became his confidant and joined that army, all as the forefather desired. So yes, and this is where it all turned, and this is the link to the Sweet Teeth. So everything was going perfectly, but then Kalikke, that silly child, got herself mixed up with a band of tiefling renegades, who were too cowardly and stupid to achieve anything in their lives by their own wits. Well, that's very rude there, but I'll roll with it. And yeah, so they were. Kanerah refers to it as a secret society. They spoke of opening everyone's eyes and making them treat the outcast with dignity. Sooner or later, they would have done something stupid and got themselves caught. Brought my sister down with them. So I helped them a little, and put my patron's people on their track. If only I could have kept Kalikke from her foolishness. On the night of the raid, for some reason I told her the truth. I thought I could explain to her that her actions were threatening our secret. I thought she would see reason. But nothing works out as one plans. She hurried off to warn her friends, and fell into the hands of the cult of the Dawnflower. Her disguise was unmasked, and with it my own as well. Oh, sand and skies, I can't imagine the rage my noble patron felt. His Aasimar confidant turned out to be a treacherous tiefling. I had no interest in learning how far he'd gone in his rage, and immediately set off to flee. Alas, as soon as they found out what had happened, the remaining members of the cult of demon worshippers, who I'd once helped to disperse, quickly tracked me down. They summoned a soul eater who cut my life short, and my story was at its end. So that's the crux there. She thought that Kalikke was doing something incredibly foolish by getting involved in, I guess, reformist movement, secret society, revolutionary tiefling brigade, and her solution to that was just to set the cult of the Dawnflower on the secret society. But by telling Kalikke to try and make her understand, it all went bad, because then she went to try and warn them. Disguise was unmasked, and yes. And so they fled, and or Kanerah fled, and she was then killed via this cult of demon worshippers who she had helped deal with in the past, and she was killed by a soul eater. It's worth remembering about the soul eaters, because she'll talk more about them. And obviously, she's not dead. So how were you resurrected? You better ask Kalikke about that. When she learned of my death, she pleaded to Nethys, the god of unparalleled powers, and his herald agreed to return me to life. But in the state we're in now, only one of us can be in the material plane at a time. Meanwhile, the other sleeps in a special demi-plane. So this is the I've tried pronouncing this before, Arcanothege, and this herald of Nethys, the two-faced or two-sided god, the god of mad magic and creative magic, destructive and creative. So the idea that Nethys was a mortal who gained so much knowledge, he both ascended and also went utterly mad. And so then, bit of closure here, bringing it up to when we met her. What happened at Chamandi's mansion? So, when Nethys returned me to life, the poor hungry soul eater started following my trail again. He can't discover me so long as I live disguised as Kaesi, but he keeps trying. That's one reason why my sister and I never stay in one place for long. We move north, living here and then there until we reach Restov. So yes, if you remember from a previous video, I mentioned that as you go south from here, you get Galt, Taldor, and then Quadira. And we're up here, Stolen Lands and Restov. And yeah. So yes, she was entranced by this plan. Even though Casey can never be a baroness, the idea was very tempting, and there was opportunity there. So, you know, she did the whole connections thing. And, witnessed the attack of the unlucky assassins, and then at that point was flipped with Kalikke, who appeared in the throne room and said she didn't know who we were, and she didn't trust us. As I discussed in pretty much some of my very first videos. Anyway, thanks very much. So there are quite a few other things. We're not good. These two aren't, but we can ask her a bit more about herself. And so how does it work? You're living in terms, and she lays it out here. That it's very much a swap, and that when one of them is in Galarian, the other one is in a sort of dreamless sleep or a complete unconsciousness in this demi-plane. So, yeah, and it restores their strength while they're there. So it's a very odd thing. Like, firstly, the fact that a god deliberately intervened here, that's very rare. Especially Nethys, who is known for almost never intervening. You know, his worshippers pride themselves on the fact that their god doesn't intervene and doesn't really answer their prayers. And but in this case, not only that the actual herald of Nethys showed up. So, yes. So, the ability came after we paid such a heavy price, i.e. her dying. And, yeah. And I long to see my sister again, and singe her hair to show my gratitude for everything. Despite her vitriol, Kanerah sighs with sorrow and seeming tenderness. So you know, I think it's a good example. You know, I'm rambling here, but a good example of how you can write an evil character, i.e., or sort of an evil character in the sense of Pathfinder or Dungeons and Dragons alignments, who, you know, she obviously cares very much for her sister, you know, and in her own way, her whole intervention was to try and save her sister. That led to her own death, but that came from, even though it was a particularly harsh way to do it, that came from that love for her sister. So, and yeah, it's hard to live and make plans when at any moment you can be pulled from reality, only to return after a few days or even weeks. I'm glad that, thanks to you, we have now learned to at least control the process a little. So, do you like it in the Stolen Lands? And, it's okay. I prefer big cities, but there's some benefits here. I don't like chaos. I've learned that at times I won't be able to play by the rules. So here's my answer. With some effort and right investments, your dominions might become something someday. And we can ask her about her sister, about your sister, her sister, and yes. This is all she says. Yeah, on my 8th summer, when Kalikke, the spring of my solstice, got angry at me and chucked a bunch of desert thistles in my hair, I had to cut them out afterwards. That's what you have to suffer if life rewards you with a sibling. Though I should say, that very evening I burned her favourite dress. With great trouble comes great satisfaction. So, there we go. And, yeah, I think that is everything there. So, we can ask these ones, but really, what it means to be a tiefling. But it feels a bit weird, because this is something that Wrath of the Righteous has improved greatly upon Kingmaker. That Wrath of the Righteous recognises if you're a tiefling in situations like this, like when you ask, say, a character like Woljif, who's a tiefling, Wrath of the Righteous, what it means to be a tiefling, he's like, well, you should know, shouldn't you? Because you're one as well. And there's additional reactivity in that sense, which really helps. And it doesn't jolt you out like this does, because there's absolutely no mention of the fact that here we are, two tieflings having a chat. And quite interesting. Which outsider do you and your sister descend from? From a devil. Of all the infernal beings worshipped in Quadira, the Hawk Queen Mahathala is the most venerated, secretly of course. Servants of her court frequent these lands, and they leave trails. I'm not going to read these out, but how are tieflings born? Basically, I've already spoken about this before, but the union between a fiend and a mortal, and we can mention this. This is again. I believe these sort of things are linked to the romance path. Anyway, thank you. So we'll dig a bit deeper, ask a couple of questions about Quadira, and yes, we've already kind of spoken about this obliquely, tangentially, because we've spoken to Tristan, who is from Kalesh. So and Quadira is their westernmost part, which is on the continent we're on, whereas everything else in Kalesh is on the, can't remember its name, but the adjacent continent to the east and southeast. So, yes. The northern states are but a pale shadow of my homeland. Only Taldor at its height could compete with us. Yes, so it's old, it's established, it's hierarchical, and it's obsessed with worshipping Sarenrae. And she makes this nice allusion. This is, of course, to Tristan. Look at Tristan and you'll see what exactly makes living in Quadira so unbearable, despite all its grandeur. And in the episode where we went to Sorrowflow, I talked about the fact that it did seem suspiciously convenient that the Disc of the Eclipse was instantly usable by them, and that by using Detect Magic, we discovered that someone else of great power had been there almost immediately before us. So don't you think the Disc of the Eclipse reacted strangely? And yes, maybe. We need a real specialist in this sort of magic. A specialist like I can't even imagine. I can definitely say that the disc hasn't been destroyed. It seems to have become part of my connection with my sister. So yeah, and I'll continue to explore it. And yeah, finally. Well, what made you stay here when now you have the disc? You've regained this, or you've gained greater control. So yeah, and yeah. So a little bit of reiteration, but that she was killed by this soul eater, and after a spellcaster aims it at its victim, the wretch will chase it tirelessly and endlessly. But when I was returned to life, the soul eater lost its prey, but it's still chasing me and might show up at any time. It would be much easier for me if I could meet it here, surrounded by experienced monster hunters, ready to protect a poor fugitive from danger. And I suppose, if you were really sort of like hard role-playing an evil character, and you were really, really, sticking to that might be reason enough just to send them away. Because, it's like, great, you're using me to help you fight some nasty monster. And we get various options. Again, there are romance-related dialogues here. I think the first one, but don't quote me on that. Anyway, we'll pick the second one. The lives of my companions is more to me than... The lives of my companions is more to me than can be expressed in words. I will try to help you. I think they're missing a word, or grammatically slightly odd, but there. And yes, that's the sort of neutral good option, I suppose, or the maybe lawful good. Yeah. Anyway, we can now swap them over. So I'd like to talk to your sister. With that stiff? Very well, I'll get her. So long. Little pause there, but now we've got Kalikke. Blue eyes, water cleric. Water kineticist. Yeah. So, I'm glad to see you at my hearth. She bites her lip and adds in a whisper, "Have you seen the sweet teeth? I can't get them out of the house. I'm so scared they'll suspect something and reveal our secret. Kanerah in mind. I wish I could keep them busy. Somewhere out of town. But anyway, welcome." So again, this is the sort of, the quest is called Tasks for the Sweet Teeth. It's about because they really don't want anyone else beyond us to realise this secret. So the rest of this video is just going to be hearing Kalikke's side of the story. So I'd like to ask you a few questions about your past, Kalikke. And we can get the other side here. Tell me the story of you and your sister from the beginning. So I won't spend too much time here. But born in Quadira, but she emphasises that Kanerah wanted respect, power, and wealth, things very unlikely to get as a tiefling in Quadira. And yes, they revere the Aasimar, and Kanerah played on that to disguise themselves, and this is the key point. And Kanerah asked for help. She asked a master of deception and illusion. Kalikke frowns. She obviously wishes to get through this part of the story as quickly as possible, so she doesn't actually say that it was a devil, but she will as if we dig a little bit more. So why did you flee? And my sister and I took different paths. Kanerah was able to earn the trust of a powerful patron. His mercenaries hunted down secret cults and monsters day and night. Meanwhile, I found a group of castaways who reminded me of my sister and I as children, tieflings and genie spawn. We gathered in secret to share our sorrows and dream of finding our place in the sun. Time passed and these gatherings became more bitter. We yearned to prove that monster blood does not make us monsters. We spoke of how we should unite and enter the great games of Quadiran aristocracy, supporting those who were ready to accept us as equals, and bringing down their opponents. We planned to use me as cover, a beautiful emberkin, who would be the voice of the castaways. And yes, this is the, I guess you could say, betrayal, or misguided attempt at saving from the other side. Kanerah reveals that she has sent the cult of the Dawnflower after Kalikke's group of misfits and revolutionaries. And yes. And I had to stay at home and not even think of warning the others. Yes. So at that moment, I realized my sister loved me so much she was ready to set aside her aspirations and warn me of the danger. But I also realized something else. Kanerah was ready to sacrifice any number of innocent lives to get what she wanted. I ran away after yelling in her face that she was a monster. I left her to warn my friends. It's the last time I saw my sister alive. So yes, this climax of their two paths as sisters, and that is a long wall of text. Anyway, her illusion was dispelled, secret was revealed, and yes, disgraced your patron. Kanerah tried to flee, but yes, trouble came to her from a place she didn't expect, and that's the demon worshippers who summoned the Soul Eater. Truth is, I betrayed our secret, and my sister died because of it. I was able to bring her back to life, but bitterness scorched my heart, and would be a part of me until my death. So, again, we've got some alignment. Oh, quite a few. Yeah. So, we can be really horrible. But, it is, these aren't very nice things to say. But we basically, alignment congruent for Alice. We can either say we sympathise with both of you, or don't blame yourself. How could you sit at home knowing your friends would be captured and dragged to a torture chamber? And I think I like that one better. The chaotic good one. There we go. I don't know the answer, Alice, but I do see that my good heart led my sister, jewel of my heart, to her death. I still cannot tell whether I was right or not, or how I would have acted if faced with a similar choice. So, obviously, Kalikke bears a lot of continued guilt, hence, why she put so much effort into getting Kanerah brought back to life. But yes, this guilt that she feels that she is responsible for Kanerah's death. Although, from the dialogue with Kanerah, you can see that for all Kanerah says, what she doesn't do is she doesn't seem to blame her sister really for her own death, which is a pretty big thing not to do. So yeah, like I was sort of talking about, their relationship remains very strong, even if they haven't met each other for years now. Or yeah, I'm not sure how long the time period is between the blessing of Nethys and now. So yes. Sometimes I feel the life we live now is the best we could hope for. We can never meet, can never share each other's sorrows, but at least I don't have to be upset about her cruelty towards others, and she about my softness and recklessness. So tell us the story of Nethys. How did you end up living in turns? After my sister almost got my friends killed, and I in my turn brought the wrath of her former patron down on her, Kanerah died as she fled from him. In terror I could only pray to the higher powers, and the Arcanothage, Nethys' herald, answered this prayer. So, she couldn't believe it, and in a way I can't either. So she promised to bring Kanerah back to life, and these are the conditions. You can't meet again, and you have to keep secret everything that happened. And they received this connection, this strange swapping demi-plane, and And the sisters, they both understand and state that these conditions seem very strange. That they're almost nonsensical. It's like, why? What? For what purpose? What is the purpose of this swapping and this not being able to tell each other? Like, it feels... how would I say? It sounds like it... You know, the reasons wouldn't make sense to a normal person. So yes, we weren't punished when you discovered our secret, but I think I can hear a storm murmuring on the horizon. We might yet have to pay for our faults, but come what may, at least I did everything I could to tear my sister from the arms of death. And then we can find out the other side of the Jamandi Mansion story. So, yes, this is a crucial bit of information. I've been sleeping in our demi-plane for over a month, so Kanerah had been out and about for a whole month, and the duration of these swaps, at least before we got hold of the disc of Nethys, it seemed to be entirely random, from just a few hours to months in this case. And she was thrown out into the burning mansion, and she didn't have time to catch up by reading their diary. And so she made the best of a bad situation. And we can be all smug here. You had me racking your brains? Yes. It was clear from the very first that something was up with Casey. And I think I made it clear, since obviously I knew this was going to happen. I talked about things like the eyes and that sort of stuff, that we knew something was up. And yes, I suppose it was natural to suspect that something was wrong. I'm still guessing why Nethys posed this condition, to keep it all secret. It seems an impossible secret to keep, and there's little we can do to safeguard it. It could all be more complicated than I know. I simply don't understand his intention. Yes. So, a few more additional things. Let's talk about how you are now. And this is a lot of dialogue. This is going to be quite a long video, as I think I alluded to. So, this is an interesting question here. Do you worship Nethys, since it was him you implored, or seemingly implored? So we get a little bit of information. I quite like this line. Nethys is the god of magic. There are no limits to his power. Kalikke speaks with awe. He was born human, but achieved such unparalleled mastery of magic that he gained divine power. He is the embodiment of paradoxes, contradictions, and making the impossible come true. I called on him at the moment of my greatest need, and he, through his herald, helped me with all the kind and merciful God when all the kind and merciful gods fell silent. But I'm no naive worshipper. The gods, especially him, are powerful and unpredictable. Besides, he's hardly interested in my gratitude, but I do honor those who help me. And what about the Arcanothage? Nethys' herald and his creation. She's a living whirlwind of magical energy, an amazing and powerful creature. She often takes interest in the business of mortals and manifests Nethys' will. In our case, I think she's done both. The Arcanothage wants to intervene and help, but she also told us that Nethys was aware of what happened. It's so strange to think that a deity turned his eyes on you, if only for a moment. And I think this actually does... Because of Nethys' madness, the Arcanothage is often left to her own devices. Basically, she just, has a lot of autonomy. So, tell us about your sister. We're twins, but we're as different as day as night. She was named Kanerah, which means silent flame, and I am named Kalikke, silent storm. So, yeah. She was born a few minutes before me. I suppose she just elvered me out of the way. And, yeah. Thanks. There's... Yeah, so for some reason it kicks us back into a menu there, which is missing. It's a different menu, basically. But, yes. How do you live with the switches? It's not easy. We keep a diary. And, yeah. If someone ever happens to see us switch, we say it's a special skill that allows us to travel through the elemental plane to replenish our powers. We're lucky to live in a world full of miracles. It's not hard to convince people of such magic. What's strange, I think in all of this, they don't talk about their kineticist powers at all. that never comes up, and I wonder why. I wonder what omission or sort of, design flow, like workflow at Owlcat, led to the fact that this dialogue was written with no mention at all of being a kineticist. Perhaps they were meant to be different classes, but of course the whole reason they were introduced was because kineticist was a DLC class that was added. So yeah. Anyway, how does it work living in turns? We've kind of already seen this. They swap. They couldn't control it. They sleep. That's it. And do you like it in the Stolen Lands? And so Kalikke very much does, while Kanerah was a bit more skeptical. And yes, and I believe this is romance path here. But let's pick the nice one. May it be a red of joy from now on. And yes, you have no idea how glad I am to be with someone I don't need to hide my secret from, and who supports me. Oh, thanks. So just a few more options here. I'm not going to go through this one here. This is almost exactly the same as before. When asking Kanerah, well, I suppose we can ask this one about evil, and yeah. Surrendering to the temptation of evil is a choice every tiefling must make for themselves. Anyway, there we go. So tell us about Quadira. Beautiful land, but unlike the Stolen Lands. So, grew up in a place dominated by desert. And obviously, being their homeland, they are very attached to it, even if others might not see it in the same way. Some say the heart and essence of every Qadiran city is its temple to Serenray, ever since our country was blessed by the radiant goddess. But I'd put it differently. The heart of every city is a noisy market with the tents in every colour you could imagine. Most of the city's life happens in the market. People go there not only to trade, but also to have fun, to negotiate, and spin their intrigues. Take away the market, and what is left of Quadira? So I think, as you might have guessed, it's sort of fictionalized vision of the sort of Middle East in the time of at the height of Arab expansion, I guess is how you'd say it. So the height of the various caliphates is the model, even if it is sort of because everything in these games is modeled on something else. In real life, there's no original stories. They're all just draw inspiration from other stuff. Anyway, it's strange what happened with the Disc of the Eclipse. And yes, I thought we'd need to spend a lot of time studying the properties of the disc before we learned how to use it, but it just worked as soon as we touched it. If I understand its actions correctly, it attuned itself to the connection between the material plane and our demi-plane. Now we can move between them at will. The rest is handled by our strange inner connection. So, again, yeah, there's speculation that this shouldn't have been so easy, and again we draw links to what we learned through our detect magic. And finally, we are at the very end of this. Why did you decide to remain in my lands? After you found and activated the relic, you could have left. And I like living here. For the first time since fleeing Quadira, I felt there's a place in the world I can call my home. And this is the final. She finally gets around to mentioning Kanerah's contract. I was very worried about the forefather, the devil my sister made a contract with long ago in Quadira. Kanerah thinks he's no longer a threat to us, since her death annulled the contract, which we saw her say. But I don't believe such a creature can ever leave us in peace. I'd like there to be someone beside me who I can rely on in case he shows up again. So, Kalike's motivation is the forefather, and if he shows up again, while Kanerah's feels that that's done and dusted, and her motivation is the Soul Eater, who I might be speculating, but I can't remember at any point Kalikke says that mentions that the Soul Eater is still after Kanerah. So it might be she believes that it isn't after it killed her, and that Kanerah hasn't revealed that to Kalikke. I might be completely wrong there or misremembering things, but yeah. Anyway, you can rely on me. We'll find a way to deal with that devil. A little bit of yeah. So yeah, you can sort of see the direction their quest, their companion quest is going in, like the little hooks that they throw in. Yes. Anyway, I have to go. So long, Kalikke. There we go. And please send the sweet teeth off on some errand to keep them away from Kanerah. So, and this is yeah, this is in Lindsay's voice, obviously.
I'll share my path.
Referring to Kaesi. We'll leave that. So we're just going to talk to the sweet teeth here. And basically we need to give them silly tasks. And we get a little bit of experience. But we either send them to weed the Nile Marches, to measure Lake Silverstep, try and find a better road to Talon Peak, or fix the fence at Oleg's trading post. And the reason I talked about how there was a sort of time limit here is that basically we need them to do all these things, and they all take time. And so we didn't want to delay doing Sorrowflow too long, or we wouldn't have enough time to complete these before other things start happening. So I'm going to go ahead and send them off to weed the Nile Marches. That's a big area, but yeah. Still can't get used to these swamps everywhere. When I was little, I thought the marches and seas and glaciers were all just storage made up by travellers. But here, you leave the city walls and you're up to your knees in real swamp. And in some of my earlier videos, I sort of talked about this a little bit. That yeah, the whole point is that Shrike Hills, our barony, is rubbish. Like, it's wet, it's damp, it's misty, it's swampy, it's terrible farming, it's filled with bandits and fey creatures and monsters, and our little barony is tiny. It's just a few huts together and a large hall. Not much to go on. And yes, well, that's fine. The swamps here are so juicy, green and blooming, and the mosquitoes whistle day and night. The Padishah himself would envy you. Right, time to get to work. And yes, off they go. So we can, I believe it's in Companion Chest, a task for the sweet teeth. So yeah, then we just need to wait for the Nile Marchers to be weeded. So we've sent them off on a meaningless task so that they don't uncover Kanerah and Kalike's secret. Anyway, this has been a long video, and I'm going to pause it here, and we'll go adventuring in the next one. Right, see you then.